All right, we wanted to kick around a more broad topic beyond yesterday's game, which was disappointing. Basically the halfway point in the season, right, at 8 games. And none of us had the Commanders going 7-1 in the first 8. But they did start off 2-0.
We're not insane.
So if you're 2-0 and you simply go 500 over the next 6 games, you're sitting pretty at 5-3. Instead, they're 3-5. They've had this losing streak. And I just put up another Junkies poll of the day brought to you by Van Meter Homes. And it's this. What's the biggest reason? All right. Now, on the poll, I have 3 choices, but we can open up to callers 800-636-1067. We'll all offer our opinion. The 3 choices are piss poor defense / Jack Del Rio.
He doesn't want you to say the
first word.
Just say poor defense.
Okay. Number 2 is putrid offensive line. And number 3 is Ron Rivera. I think just my gut on this Van Meter poll today, I think the fans are going to go with Ron Rivera. But for me, the biggest problem with this team, as they sit at 3-5, it's the defense. Because if the defense just played halfway decent and halfway like we expected, they would have won more games. Now, there have been games where the defense has made plays, like going back to the Denver game, which they won. The defense made a play. Chase Young forced Russell Wilson out of the pocket. Jamin Davis forces a fumble, and that turned around the game. That said, they dug a hole in that game because of the defense. The defense you did not expect to be one of the worst in the league. Like, I think at worst, like if we went back to August and September before the game started, all of us would have said maybe they have a top 10 defense, but none of us would have said they're a bottom third of the league. We would have all had them in the top half.
You would have thought
they have one of the worst defenses in the league.
You would have thought at worst they would be a middling defense, like 15th to 17th, somewhere in that. Like, you didn't think that they would be bottom 3 in points against.
And I know there was short field yesterday. Everyone's about yesterday. If I told you Sam Howell was going to throw for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns and well, he did throw 1 interception, and sack just 1 time, you'd say, well, that's enough to win. But the defense could not. Well, I understand the league cannot shut down A.J. Brown. The defense cannot shut down good quarterbacks. All right, they've had a couple flashes, against the Giants. They're terrible. It's all opponent based.
It's not just an A.J. Brown issue.
It's just too much. They've given up big plays throughout the season.
33. The Eagles have scored over 30 twice, obviously. The Bears scored 40. That's it right there. The Bears scored 40. That's it. Turn in your papers.
And that was when Justin Fields. All right, Justin Fields had just come off a good game the week before, actually on Sunday, and that was a Thursday night game. But yeah, the defense has been, to me, the biggest reason. What do you think is the biggest reason? They're 3-5. They're 3-5. You got to come up with 1. The biggest reason.
I mean, I guess statistically it's the defense, but it's also the inconsistent offense as well in some of those games.
You could legitimately point to any area.
This is a day where you say, well, the offense is the strength of the team and they're fine. But we weren't saying that. We weren't clamoring that the last 3 weeks.
Week in, week out.
Right.
That's the big question.
Last week we legitimately said that Eric Bieniemy's offense had done something that Scott Turner hadn't done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
But this is the way I look at it right now. And yes, they have lost 5 of 6 and they've been really bad defensively. And this is why I say there shouldn't be a fire sale. They're not out of a playoff spot. Are they good enough to make the playoffs right now? You look at it and go, no. But these other teams that they're battling against, they're just so-so to below average too.
Yeah, they're teams like the
Falcons. The Vikings just lost their quarterback for the year. The Rams were awful yesterday, and Stafford got hurt. Who knows if he's going to be playing next week? I mean, you just don't know. 3-5 is a bad record through 8, but with the expanded playoffs, you're not out of it.
Here, this is the honest-to-God truth. We're so inconsistent. We could lose the next 3.
Of course.
We could win the next 3.
Sure. I mean, I don't see them winning 3 in a row.
I agree with you, but it just seems laughable.
I know last year we ripped off 7 of 8 or whatever it is.
Totally different year.
I know, but they're still basically the same personnel. They could win.
Well, quarterbacks
and those teams, and most of it I'm basing on those teams aren't any good. But
Well, I mean, Seattle's really.
Seattle's okay.
I mean, they're leading the
guess
division.
I also think hopes were artificially
They're okay.
raised by the 2-0 start. And if you look back at those two teams they beat, those teams are combined 4-12.
And they were trailing in the fourth quarter
Arizona-
of both games.
In Arizona and Denver. And
Right.
their only other win is against a very middling Falcons team.
Right.
So I just
Who's
don't.
the third game? All right,
Giants.
It's the Giants at home. You look at that and go, the Giants are awful.
Yeah, but they've already lost. to
They've
that
already
awful
lost
team.
to them. I
They've
know.
lo-
And
they-
you don't know who the quarterback's going to be.
But
there.
they're still awful.
Yes,
All right,
of course.
Back to the
still-
question.
But that could be Daniel Jones.
Cakes,
though.
what's the biggest
the
reason?
defense. It's
Defense,
clearly the
EB?
defense.
I mean, you could point to everything. Defense, sure. I mean,
I think Ron Rivera's going to win the
it was
poll.
supposed to be a top 10, maybe top 5 defense that you grind out game. Remember we had Jay Gruden on, and he said you got a young quarterback, you got a great defensive personnel. It should be grind out games, play close, and possess the ball and win it late.
Right. And have Sam be like the 15th best
And it's
quarterback
been
in the
nothing
league.
like that. It's been like we're in shootouts.
Yesterday, Sam was the best quarterback in the league. He was the best across the board. Now he had a pick, but a lot of guys throw picks. And they still couldn't get it done because the defense allowed nearly 40 points.
Let's go to the phones. 800-636-1067. Call us in the MGM National Harbor listener lines. As we're kicking around, what's the biggest reason this team is 3-5 after a 2-0
It's
start?
funny how we've already pinpointed a couple spots in the schedule and said this is a must-win. We did that with the Chicago Bears.
Right.
We did that with the
following game, the Falcons.
we kind of did with the Giants.
But here's the
And now I'm doing it again.
I know.
Even though they're not mathematically eliminated, but I'm doing it again with the Patriot game.
But must win obviously means nothing. Like it's a great
Right.
radio term,
Yeah.
but it actually means nothing.
Correct, because mathematically it doesn't mean anything.
Well, and it doesn't affect because they have
Right.
must-win games and they lose.
Well,
and they
because
other- it just
because
is.
you can't predict the other teams in the league. You can't the
Yeah.
rest of the league. But
Yeah.
if you want to make the playoffs, you've got to beat the teams that are worse than you. And it's another spot right here.
Let's go to Eddie in Centerville. Eddie, what's up?
Hey, good morning, guys. Another Misery Monday, right?
Yep. Yes,
so
sir.
I would go with, to answer JP's question, I would go with the offensive line. I think the offensive line cost us a lot of drives in the first 8 games. But I would say that the Bears game is the only game I'll put that on the defense. Because against the Bills, they only gave up 16 in the fourth quarter. Against the Giants, they only gave up 14. And last night, it took 68 seconds, 2 drives, 5 plays, 24 yards to convert 14 points in the fourth quarter. That killed us yesterday. 5 plays, 2 drives, 24 yards, 68 seconds. And that was 14 points for the Eagles.
I mean, you can't be surprised, Eddie. I mean, this team gave up a ton of chunk plays in the last game, too. Like, they give up explosive plays.
That's what they do, man.
That's kind of their
Yeah,
specialty.
It's football. It's football. Every team does that. Niners did it last night against the Bengals.
All right, Eddie, we
Every
got to run. We
defense-
got a bunch
every
of callers.
defense-
So
I got
he's
you. Thank you.
putting on the
Thanks,
offensive
Eddie.
line. I mean, it's been a big problem. Yesterday, they give him an A, though, yesterday, right?
How many points per game are we giving up? What's the total?
29, basically.
We're giving up 29 a game.
Yes.
There's
There's only one team worse, and it's by 0.1. They're almost 32nd in the
No.
league.
That's all you need to say because you can't win that way.
No.
Doesn't
It's-
matter. Like yesterday's a perfect example. Doesn't matter how good your quarterback plays. Doesn't matter how good Jahan Dotson plays, or even McLaurin, who
Nope.
had some. It just doesn't
You're going
matter.
to allow 40
if
points.
you give up
Like-
29 a week, you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be a losing team. You're going to
Like,
you're
I
gonna be
fully expect the
embarrassed.
Patriots to have their
But they-
biggest offensive output of the year against this defense
But see,
this
again,
upcoming weekend.
I agree with you there, but they gave up 14 in a game and lost. That's what I'm trying to pinpoint. It's a
I know that-
combination of the
I know,
inconsistent
but-
offense and the bad defense.
But the defense, 9 times out of 10, has been pretty bad.
Yeah,
they have
they've been
moments.
worse.
Payne
Yes.
will flash. John Allen will flash. Montez will flash. But overall,
Yeah, they've
defense has been terrible.
I'm wondering if when they face the Seahawks in 2 weeks, will Manny Forbes be covering DK Metcalf, a guy who outweighs him by, I don't know, 55 or 60 pounds?
I don't know. It's
Is that
crazy.
going to be the defensive assignment?
It's early, but we can do this. This right now, the draft class of 2023 looks like one of the worst draft classes in the history of ever
The
drafting.
early returns are not
The
good.
early returns on Manny Forbes, Jartavius Martin, Ricky Stromberg, Braden Daniels, KJ Henry, Chris Rodriguez, and Andre Jones. Virtually none of them are actually helping the football team.
KJ Henry, I mean, the only thing I see him on is the inactive list every week.
No,
Nice guy. Good guess when we had him on.
You could maybe argue your 6th-round pick is your best pick, Chris Rodriguez.
He's probably been the most impactful so far in very limited duty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of our draft
Very
this
limited.
year.
Yeah.
It's not fair. It's only 7 games in, or whatever the hell we are. 8 games.
8.
That's one of the worst draft classes 8 games in I've ever seen.
I would like to see if
I've
there's
never
a grade.
seen anything that bad.
It's pretty bad.
You know what? We wondered why they wouldn't draft offensive line, and they went with corner. They went secondary,
They went
right?
with like 8 guys that all suck.
Well, maybe they knew the defense was all a mirage last year. Because right now, just to give you the exact numbers, EB, they're giving up 374 yards per game. That's 29th. Only 3 teams are worse in the league defensively overall. Steelers, Chargers, Broncos. By the way, Broncos getting better defensively now. And in terms of points per game, it's 28.5 points per game. The Colts are worse at 28.6. If you go to the specifics, they're 29th as a secondary, giving up 256 yards passing, and they're 21st. They're pretty stellar against run, 21st.
Let's go, Greg, Upper Marlboro. Greg, what's up? You're on with the Junks.
Hey, good morning, Junks. EB, you hit it right on the nail. I'm going to put the blame on the coaching staff and the personnel. Let's just talk about the draft. The first 2 picks only played a combined 5 snaps yesterday. Chris Paul gets in there, and he's like the second coming of the damn Hogs, and we wait until game 7 to play him. I mean, it's just so many things wrong. KJ Henry is not playing. I mean, Emmanuel Forbes, who looked like he couldn't, he was the next stud CB here. I mean, he's on the bench now. Y'all right. He hasn't played in 2 weeks. They're coming back. They're putting him in the game against A.J. Brown. I mean, it's just a total mismanage of the front office. Ron Rivera has to go. He is the problem. They got to get some competent thinkers in there. I know they just hired an analytics guy. They got to get some real competent thinkers in there who can really, really match up that personnel. At this point, I say get rid of everybody, honestly, except for like Sam Howell and the guys who played on the offensive line yesterday. But I think it has to start there because it's a drip-down effect. Starts at the top, and then it goes to the players. The players play the way that they're being coached, and the personnel, they're playing. It's just bad. It's just a terrible situation. And I would just like to see what y'all think.
We feel the pain.
I mean, can't argue with virtually anything that you said.
I don't know about bringing all the offensive line back, which, they did have one good game. Let's see them string some games together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been saying. I mean,
Yeah, but it was a big upgrade, right? Did Larson play center?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Big upgrade.
I know.
Big upgrade. Supposedly Gates was even struggling with calling the protections
And it
out.
just makes you wonder
Everything.
why it took so long to do that.
That's what I keep asking.
Because they're
I don't-
slow to adjust.
I don't. Why? Why are they slow to adjust?
Old and
Dinosaurs
old.
have slow-moving brains.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Their brains are mush. Their brains are
I mean-
mush. I believe me, I can relate. My brain is mush.
And Ron's definitely older than us.
Yep.
Older than us by like 10 years.
Yep.
Well,
10?
close.
I don't think it's
8 or
10.
9. 8 or 9. I think he's 61.
Okay.
8-ish.